The SLFP will always play a role in pointing out the mistakes of the government. A statement by Minister Chandimu Weerakkodi.
බොහෝ දෙනා කිව්වා මහා බැංකුව අධිපති අස් කරන්නේ නැහැ. අස් කරන්න බෑ කියලා.
A call for an order to be issued by the Mahasangha to ban all individuals who act against the country and religion from entering places of worship.
In news from the President's diary, President Maithripala Sirisena has reiterated once again that foreign nations will not be allowed to interfere in the internal affairs of the country. The President made the statement addressing an event held in Peradeniya today.
There are no provisions in the Constitution which allow foreign judges to operate within the country. I will not agree to a constitutional amendment which creates the necessary background for this. The UN, nor the UNHRC, has mentioned anything about military courts. There were a number of points that were discussed when the UN Human Rights High Commissioner visited the country. We spoke about the resettlement of those who had been displaced in the north for nearly 20 years, and also the manner in which we could strengthen the independence of the judiciary. I need to state very clearly that as long as I hold office, foreign nations will not be able to influence or interfere with the affairs of our country. I will not allow foreign nations to dictate the manner in which the administration of the country is handled. The President made these statements during the closing ceremony of the Tripitaka Dharma Sajjayana at the Sri Subodharam Viharaya in Peradeniya.
On to one of our headline-making stories. In a backdrop where the central bank bond scam created a huge public outcry, details of another controversial transaction that resulted in the country suffering billions of losses has come to light. A petition was lodged with the Supreme Court regarding this transaction pertaining to the awarding of tenders to purchase coal that incurred a loss of approximately 1.2 billion rupees to the country. Though the application was dismissed citing technical reasons, the Supreme Court said that the transaction shocked the conscience of the court.
When the application for the petition was dismissed, the court stated that the actions of the Secretary to the Ministry of Power and Energy, Suren Batakoda, shocked the conscience of the court. Even though the three-member bench of the Supreme Court, headed by Chief Justice K. Sripavan, dismissed the case, it forwarded two directions, stating that the credibility and the faith of the people in the judiciary must be maintained. One direction stated that the contract reached with the company in question may be terminated. It also said to call for fresh bids in terms of the law for the supply of coal in keeping with the competitive bidding procedures. Noble Resources International Private Limited filed a fundamental rights petition at the Supreme Court, citing that their fundamental rights were violated when a tender was awarded to another Singaporean company. The tender was awarded to Swiss Singapore Overseas Enterprises Private Limited when Noble Resources had provided the bids in 2015 in accordance with the provisions of the bid documents. The petition has listed the complete Cabinet of Ministers, the Secretary to the Ministry of Power and Energy, and the Standing Cabinet-appointed Procurement Committee as respondents. Noble Resources International Private Limited has produced bids for 1.064 million metric tons of coal in accordance with the provisions of the Cabinet-appointed Procurement Committee in April 2015. The company has agreed to provide 1 metric ton of standard coal for $46.62. Meanwhile, the other company in question that obtained the tender, Swiss Singapore Overseas Enterprises Private Limited, has also provided bids to provide 1 metric ton of coal at $54.41. The bids were considered by the Standing Cabinet-appointed Procurement Committee and the Technical Evaluation Committee. G.S. Vithanage, the Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Employment, acts as the Chairman of the Standing Cabinet-appointed Procurement Committee, while the Secretary of the Ministry of Power and Energy, Suren Batakoda, the General Manager of the Ceylon Electricity Board, M.C. Veerasekara, and Additional Secretary of the Ministry of Power and Energy, S.A.N. Sarantissa, are members of the committee. Noble Resources International Private Limited, in its petition, goes on to say that the conditions of the tender have been revised after the bids were produced. The company has informed the Supreme Court that Swiss Singapore Overseas Enterprises Private Limited has made a written request regarding the matter. Eventually, 1.064 million metric tons of coal have been obtained from the Swiss Singapore Overseas Enterprises Private Limited at a cost of approximately $58 million. If the same amount of coal was obtained from Noble Resources International Private Limited, the cost would have been approximately $49 million. The loss incurred as a result of this transaction is approximately $8.3 million or 1.2 billion rupees. Attorney at Law Maitri Gunaratne, chairman of the Lanka Coal Company, stated that the Auditor General has already asked for an explanation regarding the matter from the company. Maitri Gunaratne added that the company will seek a clarification from the Supreme Court regarding its directions. When contacted by Newsfirst, the chairman of the Standing Cabinet-appointed Procurement Committee, G.S. Pithanage, stated that he cannot comment on the matter.
This is the biggest fraud of this government, second only to the bond scam. I will speak on the Supreme Court decision that was given out 2 weeks ago regarding this. It says that there is the use of force regarding the awarding of this coal tender, and power has been used externally for other purposes as well. There were 5 state officials in the cabinet-appointed procurement committee. One such person is the Secretary to the Ministry of Power and Energy, Suren Batakoda. There are a number of state officials, including Mr. Vithanage. I will not mention the names of everyone. When such a decision is given, when the cabinet has been misled, when the executive president of the country, the prime minister and everyone has been misled, the respective ministry has a responsibility to take action against such state officials according to the establishment's code. In other words, the Ministry of Public Administration has a responsibility. Is the Ministry of Public Administration unaware of the decision handed down by the court regarding the second biggest scam that took place under this government?
සිදුවෙච්ච දෙවැනි බරපතලම වංචාවේ අධිකරණ තීන්දුව දන්නේ නැද්ද?
This evening on our Frontline segment, we have Mr. Faraz Shaukat Ali, a very senior journalist, joining us. Very good evening to you, Faraz.
Good evening, Chatranda.
Let's get straight to it. There are details of another scam that took place in the country coming to light. Indeed. Does this mean that the inability of the government to manage the finances of the country?
It demonstrates utterly poor fiscal management. We had the Auditor General a few days ago who said that there was an initial loss of approximately 1.6 billion rupees on the so-called bond scam, and now with this coal thing, as you've just shown, the loss is about 1.2 billion. Straight away we are on to sort of over 3 billion. And it just goes on and on. It shows, it demonstrates that this government haven't quite got it right.
Yes, Faraz. Now that leads me to an interesting point. Now, the petition application has listed down the full cabinet of ministers as respondents in this case, as we just saw. Does this mean that the government is truly responsible for the loss-making of transactions like this?
Absolutely, it is. That is so, and it is quite right to name them all because it's collective responsibility. And it is worth bearing in mind that it is essential for the maintenance of the rule of law that every organ of the state must act within the limits of its power and carry out the duties imposed upon it constitutionally. That is critical for good governance and eventually for proper fiscal management. Those things are critical. We must bear that in mind, that every state organ must act within the constitutionally seen and the way the Constitution envisages them to act, and they must do so. If they can't, these officials must be removed.
You mentioned state officials, state organs, you said. There is the constitution that is in place. There is the there are several organizations that are in place to take action against if the state is doing a mistake.
It's essential that we bear in mind that these people are fully accountable. And in this latest case, the Supreme Court has said that the court cannot close its eyes and allow the actions of the state or public authority to go unchecked in its operations in the public interest.
But is that enough for us? Shouldn't someone be held accountable directly for this loss, if there was a loss?
Absolutely. The losses have been shown up and they have been quantified. And there is enough of laws in this country, including Section 70 of the Bribery Act, to deal with public officials who make errant decisions that result in loss to the public purse. And it is about time actually that somebody, one of these officials, there are plenty of examples, should be taken to court, at least to set an example, so that the government can demonstrate its true commitment to upholding the rule of law and to protecting the public.
Final question for us. There is the establishment code in the country. What happens when officials like this, public officials as you mentioned, are taking decisions to incur a loss?
Well, the full force of the laws and the regulations must come into play without anything to do with nepotism or political patronage. It should be truly professional, and if they have broken the rules, then they must be dealt with according to those rules. They must be sent home, actually. That's what should happen, so that eventually we will have a robust and equitable situation here.
Thank you very much, Faraz, for joining us on the front line this evening. We will be joining you with more news right after this. As promised, more local news. Shandima Virakodi, the Minister of Petroleum and Petroleum Gas, convened a media briefing in Galle today.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂය කවදාවත් දෙකට කරන්න බෑ.
The Sri Lanka Freedom Party cannot be divided. Persons holding positions in the Sri Lanka Freedom Party may take decisions on personal grounds. However, keep in mind that the people of this country stand behind the party, its policies and the nation. Do not assume that they accept all actions of the government. At times, when the government moved on the wrong path, they have been with the president to ensure that those wrongs were rectified. Many claim that the governor of the central bank will not be removed and that he cannot be removed. The people's view was that the governor was not suitable to hold office. The Sri Lanka Freedom Party stood by the decision. As the leader of the country and the party, President Maithripala Sirisena made that decision.
රටේ නායකයා හැටියට පක්ෂ නායකයා හැටියට මෛත්‍රීපාල සිරිසේන ජනාධිපතිතුමා ඒ තීරණය ඉටු කරා.
Speaking in Kadwala today, State Minister Sujiva Senasinghe commented on the COPE membership.
I was not aware that I had been appointed to COPE. I was later notified of the appointment. I was appointed by the party based on my talents. I fight for what is right. I won't listen to the President, the Prime Minister, nor the media institutions.
However, Ashok Abhisinghe, the Deputy Minister of Transport, expressed a different opinion yesterday.
I am well aware that when we were having a meal, State Minister Sujiva Senasinghe told MP Velukumar that he wished to be a part of COPE and whether the MP could support him in this. He asked the MP to step down from COPE so that he can be appointed. The MP agreed, and that is how he was appointed to COPE. There are many who wish to be appointed to COPE. COPE discusses the monetary situation of the country. He wonders if he can enter COPE, but the appointments have been made. Therefore, he needs to get someone from COPE to agree to his plan. He approached MP Velukumar, and the MP agreed to step down. When this was informed to the party leadership made the appointment.
Chief Opposition Whip MP Anura Kumara Dissanayake, speaking in Parliament yesterday, commented on the Judicial Services Commission.
The biggest split in the Sri Lankan judiciary occurred when an impeachment motion was brought against Chief Justice Sri Rani Bandaranayake. When Mohan Piris took over the role, the divide intensified and they began to replace judges. Colombo Chief Magistrate Rashmi Singapuli was replaced. Additional magistrates serving in the Colombo Magistrates Court, excluding Justices CTP Ranasinghe and Nishant Piris, were transferred to far-off locations. Justices who supported the impeachment motions were installed in courts around Colombo. Due to this, most of the justices who stood up for justice are still serving in far-off locations. They used the Judicial Services Commission to commit this witch hunt. Individuals who allegedly accepted bribes in Kalutara and Maliga Kanda were appointed to positions in Colombo where important cases such as income tax fraud were being heard. The policy of transferring judges as agreed by the Judicial Services Commission and the Judicial Services Association is not being implemented due to the interference of the Deputy Secretary of the Judicial Services Commission. Senior judges have been disenchanted and let down due to actions of this Deputy Secretary which were arbitrary and ad hoc. The Judicial Services Commission, which was conceptualized to protect the integrity of the judicial sector, has now become the very same institution that interferes with the independence of the judiciary. I ask that you pay special attention to this.
If I
had the power to look into this, I would gladly do so. However, as it is an independent body, as ministers, we do not have the authority to interfere.
The Judicial Services Commission was created for a specific reason. However, they are not violating this very reason. They have acted in a manner which has impacted the independence of the judiciary. The Parliament should take a stand on the decisions of this commission.
The founder of the Jatika Namaluina, Venerable Vanavasi Rahula Thera, attended a media briefing at the Bauddhaloka temple in Kurunagala today.
It is my belief that the time has come to deprive the corrupt Sinhala Buddhist politicians, organizations and other individuals who make decisions that are harmful to the religion and the nation the opportunity of entering places of worship, including the temple of the sacred tooth relic as well as the Sri Mahabodhi. The doors need to be closed to these persons. There are the three sects called the Siam, Amarapura and Ramanya sects. The Mahanayakas of the three sects must not remain divided. They must take measures to issue an order to all members of the Sangha by taking into consideration the plight of all the laymen in the country.
Still on local news, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi called on President Maithripala Sirisena yesterday.
During the meeting which took place at the President's official residence, the Chinese Foreign Minister had noted that China would continue its support to Sri Lanka. The President's media division said that the President had appreciated the support extended by China when the country was facing difficulties in the international fora. President Maithripala Sirisena, expressing his gratitude for the efforts of the Chinese government to fight the chronic kidney disease in Sri Lanka, also appreciated the assistance given by the government of China during the final phase of the war to eliminate terrorism from the country. This morning, the Chinese Foreign Minister called on Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. The meeting was centered on several matters, including the issue on the South China Sea. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi met with his Sri Lankan counterpart Mangala Samaravira last evening.
The search for the next big musical sensation is coming to close at the grandest stage of them all in Stein Studios, Ratmalana. Sirasa TV, the pioneer in reality television in Sri Lanka, will crown their 7th superstar tonight. 4 contestants are vying for the crown this time around, and they are Nilan Hettiarachchi, Piyat Rajapaksa, Bashi Madhubashini and Nelka Tilini. Let's cross over live to the Stein Studios in Ratmalana to witness a glimpse of the action there. Sirasa TV, the pioneer in reality television in Sri Lanka, will crown their 7th superstar tonight. 4 contestants are vying for the crown this time around, and they are Nilan Hettiarachchi, Piyat Rajapaksa, Bashi Madhubashini and Nelka Tilini. You are now witnessing live footage from Stein Studios in Ratmalana. Four contestants are vying for the crown this time around, and they are Nilan Hettiarachchi, Piyat Rajapaksa, Bashi Madhubashini and Nelka Tilini. What you're witnessing live is footage from Stein Studios in Ratmalana. Shifting gears into some more local news, the Police Narcotic Bureau has uncovered a drug triangle centering Sri Lanka, which also involves Pakistan and the Maldives Islands. 2 leading members of this drug triangle were arrested early this morning in Dehiwala.
2 Maldivian nationals were arrested today. Police said that this drug triangle is an international ring operating from Colombo. 305 grams of heroin prepared as capsules were seized from the suspects by police. On the 25th of June, a Pakistani national was arrested with a stock of heroin worth around 50 million rupees. According to the police, this suspect is a key player in the drug ring involving Sri Lanka, Pakistan and Qatar. Investigations have also revealed that this individual has also supplied narcotics to 2 Maldivian nationals who were arrested in April along with 1.5 kilograms of heroin.
Attending a program in Hambantota today, Minister of Housing and Construction Sajith Premadasa expressed his views about the common opposition and the shadow government.
It is a shame to say that the very person who appointed the shadow cabinet resigned from the post of Prime Minister and the other ministerial posts even before the lapse of 24 hours. The brother of the head of the shadow cabinet says that he doesn't know anything about the appointment of this cabinet and that he has no connection to it.
දැන් ඡායා කැබිනට්ටුව පත් වෙලා පැය 24ක්වත් ගියේ නැහැ. ඡායාව මායාවක් වුණා. මායාව විශ්වාස කරන්න හෙට දවස වෙනකොට අවතාරයක් වෙනවා. හෙට දවසේ අවතාරය වෙලා
By tomorrow, the shadow will turn into a ghost and then it will be the joint curse. The attempt of these people to create unrest among the people will soon be a failure.
හෙට අනිද්දා දවස් වෙනකොට සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම ජනමතයෙන්ම පරාජය වෙනවා.
Construction of the 36th model village got underway in Walaspura area in Suryawawa, Hambantota. This village, which is to house 35 families, is named Sarujayagama.
Minister Faisal Mustafa says that a program will be implemented to develop the talents of street artists. During a meeting with street artists, the minister noted that discussions in this regard are already underway with several ministries, including the Ministries of Cultural Affairs and Foreign Affairs.
These paintings are a common sight to anyone who comes to Colombo passing the Vihara Mahadevi Park. This location, which has won the attraction of both local and international art lovers, consists of paintings of different genres. However, the painters point out that they don't have a proper mechanism to sell their artwork. Minister Faisal Mustafa, who arrived at the location, agreed to provide a solution that would develop the talents of these artists.
They said that they face various issues when storing the paintings. Therefore, the Commissioner of Colombo promised us that they will provide a location where they could store their work. They would be charged a small fee. At the same time, through the Ministry of Tourism, we plan on educating corporations and ambassadors on the talents of these artists. I believe that this location near the Vihara Mahadevi Park will soon be known all over the world as the place of art and artists.
News First new reporter Upul Janaka Kumara filed this report from Dambulla.
An accident involving a tipper and a car occurred at around 7:30 am along the Dambulla-Habarana main road in the Pelvara area. The tipper truck veered off the road following the collision and crashed into a nearby house.
ඉදිරිපස ගැටී තිබෙනවා. මම Newsfirst you reporter උපුල් ජනක කුමාර දඹුල්ලේ සිට.
And finally, in some sports news, South Asian sprint sensation Himanshu Eshan won the men's 100 meters track event at the 94th edition of the National Athletics Championships 2016.
Organised by the Athletic Association of Sri Lanka, the championships are taking place at the Diagama Mahinda Rajapaksa Stadium. Himanshu Eshan clocked a time of 10.5 seconds to win the 100 meter event. Shashika Vidanadurage, representing the Sri Lanka Air Force, won the women's 100 meters, clocking a time of 12.1 seconds. A special qualifying round for the high jump event aimed at the Rio Games will take place tomorrow.
Well, that's a wrap of weekend primetime news here at News First. I'm Satrang Hapawarachi. Take care. and good night.
Hotline 0114 896 896. www.newsfirst.lk